Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Colleen Meyer, and welcome to a brand new take with Michelle Petties. Michelle Petties is our host for this event, and she is a speaker and the author of Leaving Large, a Food Addict's Memoir, how she lost 700 pounds in 40 years. Michelle, I think I've got.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you go to www.leavinglarge.com, you can download a chapter from her book. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Oh yeah, you got it right, Colleen. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So if you're joining us tonight on a brand new take. You see a new face in the screen. You see another face in the screen. You see Leslie Davis, who is also an author. She is an author, the author of You Can't Eat Love. And so tonight we're gonna have a three-way tonight. How about that? We're gonna have a three-way conversation on a brand new take. And if you haven't seen me before on Sunday nights, I'll just do a quick little history. My name is Michelle Pettis, host of a brand new take. I'm a food story finder. And if you don't know what a food story is what I uncovered, what I discovered that helped me to finally lose weight and keep it off. Over the course of my lifetime, I have gained and lost over 700 pounds. And I tried everything, right? Right, on this journey, if it's low calorie, if it's low carb, if it's high protein, if it's a protein shake, if it's a diet shake, if it's a cabbage diet, if it's all of that. I had surgery, I did all of that, all in the effort to get a body that I could be proud of and that I could love. And finally, when I figured out that I needed to use some sort of program to get me to change my habits, right? Because ultimately, you do have to eat less and you do have to move more. I mean, there's no secret. We all know that. But sometimes we have blocks. We have blocks to allowing us to do that, which I had. But once I opened my food stories, I was able to navigate that and navigate that pretty easily. So, a food story, very quickly, is the events, the experiences, and the memories that we all have that govern how we manage food. And an easy way, I'll tell this story if you haven't heard it before. If you have heard it before, I just like telling it. The breakthrough for me happened when I remembered a story that my uncle told me years ago. That he and some friends stole a watermelon. He and some friends stole a watermelon. My grandfather, his father, found out about it and beat him within an inch of his life. As a result, when he was telling me this story, he was almost 80 years old. He never ate watermelon for 70 years because his experience around that food was so painful when he was young. It brought up such horrible memories. It was so traumatic that he never ate that food. And as I thought about that story, as I still think about that story, I think about the connections, the emotional connections that we make towards food. And it came up for me around cravings, right? And cravings and behaviors about eating certain things over and over again, that the connections with that food were so wonderful, so beautiful, so pleasurable that when I wanted to experience that kind of pleasure, again, I always went to the food. And it wasn't the food, it was the experience. So once we separate the food from the experience of the food, then we can interrupt the pattern. That's what a food story does. It gives you a way to interrupt the pattern and understand what your behavior is all about. And we have Lisa on the call with us tonight. Yay, Lisa. And Lisa can tell us about some of her food stories too. But when you interrupt the pattern, then and you understand where this feeling, where this craving is, hey Sheba, um, where this craving is coming from, then it allows you to put things in place to help you manage your food, manage your diet, manage your behavior, because you recognize where it's coming from and you can eat to satisfy hunger and not to satisfy an emotional need. That is the short version. That's why we're here, because we're all about eating for the right reasons. That's what That's what leaving large is about. That's what being brand new is about, is learning how to eat for the right reasons. And if you have some sort of emotional need that needs to be served, then we go to people for that, because we manage food and we have relationships with people. So tonight, now that you have an overview of why we're here and what we're talking about tonight, we're going to go to Leslie and let Leslie do her introduction and tell us all about her new book that's come out. We're going to go to Lisa and have Lisa talk to us about her food story, and then we're going to go back to Colleen, and she is going to share this week's dilemma, because every Sunday on A Brand New Take, we unpack a food story dilemma that I post up in the group toward the beginning of the week. People have a chance to weigh in on it, and then we solve it. We solve it on Sunday night. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to get things rolling right now with Leslie. Thank you so much for joining us. So happy that you're here. And just tell anybody who's listening who you are and what you do and why you do it.
Well, first of all, Michelle, the fact that we get to be in the same airspace together, I am so excited. Because usually, I mean, what you guys don't know, she and I can get together on Zoom and we could probably go for days on end if we were allowed. But usually we've got something else to do, and that's the only reason that we don't go for days on end. But yes, I did stalk Michelle. I still stalk her a little bit, not so much, because I've gotten to know who she is and her philosophy, her thoughts, her ideas, her way of looking at food and losing weight and getting, your life under control is just so amazing. But more than that, it's almost as if I am talking to myself when I'm listening to Michelle talking. And I did write a book, and it's called You Cant Eat Love. She talks about her food stories. Well, I've got a whole chapter, and the name of the chapter is Trigger is not just the name of Roy Rogers' horse. And what I talk about in there was my personal big aha moment, which I was preparing a brisket for my family. And you know how brisket has that aroma. And this was actually after I'd already lost almost all the weight. And just to back my story up just a little tiny bit, about 6, almost 7 years ago, I had one of those moments that so many of us encounter where it was either I was going to keep on going in a very dark place, or I was going to decide that I needed to do something different. And I made the choice that I was going to get healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically. Well, if I would have known on that day that I made that decision how difficult it was going to be, I think I would have chosen the other route. Because I tell people, we have to do the hard work of the hard work. And if you think the hard work is controlling what you're eating, you're wrong. That is not the hard work. Yes, we do need to understand how much food we need for fuel for our body. We do need to understand about nutrition. We do need to understand about balance. But as Michelle talks about so masterfully about being, the stories, food was my drug of choice. And so I had to do the hard work of learning to love myself so that I could get rid of the drug of choice. And it was the hard work of learning to love myself, because I believed that I was unlovable. So many people had reinforced that in my life. I had reinforced it inside of myself because of the people that should have loved me, reinforced it in me. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. So I spend a lot of time rewriting those tapes in my head.
Yes.
And learning that, you know what? Leslie is an amazing person. She has so many gifts, and she is so talented, and she is even funny. She's not as funny as Michelle, but that's okay. Somebody has to be the backup, right? I mean, even Diana Ross had the Supremes. But anyway, and after I went through all of this and I learned to love myself and I did this hard work and I rewrote all these tapes and I discovered, a better way to live, and I started speaking to myself differently. I started living differently, setting boundaries differently, doing all these things differently. I ended up losing almost 100 pounds. Now, over my lifetime, I probably did lose, like Michelle, about 700 pounds. But anyway, I've lost almost 100 pounds and kept it off now for almost 4 years. So I think that's pretty incredible.
Yes.
But like I said, the hard work of doing the hard work, getting rid of that drug of choice. But, circling back around to what you were saying about your uncle and the watermelon, it was that aha moment. And it was actually after I had lost the weight that I was cooking a brisket. I was taking it out of the oven and the smell hit me. And I was transported back, literally transported back to my grandmother's kitchen where Willie Mae was taking the brisket out of the oven. And I could hear everybody outside of my grandmother's house in the backyard laughing and talking. I could hear my mother, who's been dead now for 37 years. I mean, I could hear all these people who were either dead or not around. And I could smell every single item that was part of that menu, even though I was not preparing that exact same menu.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a bucket of cold water moment. And I could feel the tears coming down my face. Now, what I did, and I'm very transparent about this, what I ended up doing was, how brisket, you leave some of the fat on it because if you don't, it ends up being dry. Well, fat is my favorite part of the brisket because my grandfather told me a long, long, long time ago. He died when I was 4, so it was very long ago. He told me that the best part of the bacon was the fat, and I believe that, and I believe it applies to all beef. So whatever. Anyhow,
Yeah, there's your food story right there. You and Grandpa.
That's right. That's right. So I was slicing the fat off of the brisket, and I started eating it. And I even say in the book that if I wasn't trying to serve the meal to my family, I would have stood there with the fork and the knife in my hand, and I would have eaten every single solitary bite of that brisket. That is how powerful those stories are. Mm-hmm. But I caught myself. And because I had done a lot of the hard work of the hard work, because I've learned, as Michelle said so well, we need to go to people for the emotions, because the other part of what I had to do was learn how to name my emotions and not be afraid of them.
Yes, yes.
Because so many times, if we think about it, and we do a huge disservice to our children, a child falls down and they get hurt, and the parent says, "Oh, you're not hurt." Well, think how confusing that is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can remember thinking, yeah, it did hurt. Why are you telling me it doesn't hurt? And so then you start questioning your reality, and because you're the adult, you believe them.
Right.
So then you start applying that to so many other things.
Absolutely.
And if you listen to yourself, and if you listen to the people around you, I call it, that we start shoulding all over people. And especially when we talk about emotions and how we feel. You shouldn't feel sad. You shouldn't feel mad. You shouldn't feel, the list goes on and on and on. It's mm-hmm. interesting that, whoever says to anybody, you shouldn't feel happy. Really? Right. But, so, we circle back.
What you're talking about is what I see as, just like what you said, you shouldn't feel bad, is that we as a culture are uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. And we don't feel like we should be uncomfortable. That's where picking up food to mask discomfort comes from in many ways. But the reality is there is some freedom and some power in living with discomfort. And what I mean by that is that if you allow yourself to feel the pain of the discomfort, then that gives you an opportunity to fix the problem. That if you're in that, it gives you the tools, it gives you the insight to go deal with the source of the discomfort. Rather than if you mask it, then you, for a while, you can pretend it's not there, and you end up delaying solving the problem, which doesn't even make it any better. So the mother, what is it, the something necessity and the mother of invention and all that, right?
The mother of
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of invention. So if we will just be okay with sitting with the fact that we're angry, that we're mad, that we're upset, that we're frustrated, that we're afraid, that we're confused, that we're any number of things that we're afraid to be, and know that on the other side of all of that is some clarity. But we have to be in that space right there to get to a different level of consciousness and awareness, and really kind of embrace those things, because it means that we're about to have a breakthrough. We're about to have a breakthrough on the other side. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. And I also, but before you go on, Leslie, I want people to know how they can get your book. Tell them your website, how they can connect with you. And I want, Lisa has jumped on, and I know she has a food story that she wants to share. You and Lisa, no, we're not gonna have you have a food story. We're gonna have you jump in on the example this week, and we're gonna have you weigh in on the example this week too, Leslie.
Okay. My website is You Can't Eat Love without the apostrophe in it. YouCan'tEatLove.com, and you can reach me every which way from there. That's the best way to get to me. And also my book is posted with the links to the different sites to get my book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. But the other thing that I wanted to say before we talked to Lisa is we are human. And I believe that part of the problem that we have is as humans, adults want to fix things. Adults are busy trying to fix things because they were shown as children that they shouldn't have emotions. They weren't given the freedom. And so you grow up to be an adult that wants to fix stuff. And how many commercials do we see where the way that they're fixing something is they hand somebody food?
Yes.
How many times?
Yes.
Also, how many times do you hear someone say, I'm going to my grandmother's house and I know it's going to be a bad experience food-wise because she pushes food on me because she uses food to show love? No, she's using food to show control. It has nothing to do with love. It's 100% control, because then the focus is 100% on her. Aren't I a great person? And she's looking for affirmation. And she's actually, if you want to get really deep into this, she's gaslighting. So you can go, study the narcissist and the gaslighting and all that kind of stuff. That's what's really going on. Because truthfully, if she did love you, she would be more concerned about making certain that, is there food here that you could eat? Are you comfortable with this? Do I need to make sure the cake stays back in the back where you don't see it? Can I put the cookies someplace where you're not tempted? What would you like? What would make you comfortable? That's love. That is love.
Let me just kind of like speak to that for just a second. And the example that you gave about that being love, and even the person that's on the other side, that also speaks to our relationship with ourselves and not our relationship with food. And when we get to the point where no matter what grandma brings out, or no matter what Aunt Sissy brings out, or my brother, my cousin, my sister, no matter what they bring out, that we have a level of comfort and confidence about saying, I appreciate it, love you for it, thank you, but no. Right. And we're not worried about what's going to go on, in that dynamic. And not only that, and I think I'm not sure if I just told Carlene about this or if I told Lisa or when we were talking about it, but just last week, I was on vacation. I was on vacation at Canyon Ranch, Tucson, right? But I stopped at the Sonesta for a night before we went there, and I overslept. And this restaurant had they put out that breakfast for you. It's the free breakfast. I overslept and I missed the free breakfast. And the attendant was down on the elevator, and I'm like, "Oh, I missed the breakfast." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you missed the breakfast. I can bring you a muffin. Would you like for me to bring you a muffin?" Now I was super hungry, right? And but I knew I wasn't going to eat that muffin because I don't eat like that. So when he said, "I can bring you a muffin," I mean, he felt like he was doing a good thing. You said you were hungry. I got something for you here. I'm gonna get that for you. And I said, "Do you have some fruit?" He went in the back, came out with 2 apples and 2 bananas. And the reason that he came out with 2 apples and 2 bananas was because I asked for it. Because I stood up for where I was in my process, and he acknowledged that. I mean, the reality is, if he didn't have anything, if he didn't have any bananas or apples or anything like that, I was just going to wait. I was just going to wait and eat later. But the only reason I got that fruit was because I was in a place where I could ask. Now, 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have asked, right? I wouldn't even recognize my own power in that situation. And it had nothing to do with food, but it had everything with where I was in my own growth and development. And that's what this process does for you. It's right in you what I found that it's not about the food. And what the food story does, it gives you some strength in discovering who you really are and how you want to react in certain situations. So, that example you gave about, grandmother, and if she really loved you, that she would bring you something, something different to support you. But sometimes, people are just so stuck, right? They don't even know any other way. And my point is, we have to teach people how to treat us.
Well, and
We have
those were two lessons that I learned that were very difficult to learn because they go against a whole lot of things. One was, it is my responsibility to teach you how to treat me. And if I accept unacceptable behavior, then that's on me. It's not on you. That's the first thing. And a book that helped me get this concept clear is Getting the Love You Want. And then the second thing that I learned is I am only in control of me. I am not in control of you. And
Yes.
when I make requests, or when I say something like I am sad, or for example, I felt sad or I felt mad when you said XYZ or you did XYZ. I am stating my truth. I'm not, laying blame or anything like that. I'm stating, very clearly there is no blame in there, and how you choose to react is your choice. It is not my responsibility how you act. It is not my responsibility if you feel bad or you feel mad or you feel pouty, or you say, well, I didn't do whatever. You know how some people will give, well, I didn't do whatever, when you state your truth. That is not on me. I was very clear. I stated my truth. I'm not in control of you. And that was really hard because I was a people pleaser.
Yes.
I was a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Now the person that I choose to please is me. Yes.
I was saying, can I jump in here? Because what I'm hearing is, well, we all have superpowers. We really do. The ability to control yourself, that is a superpower. It takes a lot. It takes a lot more to control yourself than it does to control anybody else or anything. So that is a superpower. And that's what I'm hearing here. Just really brief. Everybody that knows anything about me knows that my sister lives with me and my sister cooks all the time. Everything. We had a block party yesterday. This is block party hair from Jumping Rope. And I can't, if you can name it, my sister cooked it. Well, I like most of that stuff, but I was able to say, no, I'm going to eat this, or no, I'm not going to eat that. And most of the stuff I didn't eat, but I felt so good. And I jumped rope all day. And I felt so good because I exercised my superpower, and I need an S on my chest. But that's what it is. We all are superheroes. We all have the power to control ourselves. We just only need to do it.
Yes.
So
And
that
you know, and what you just said, Lisa, we all have the power to control ourselves, leads right into the Monday dilemma, right? And so here is the Monday dilemma. Normally I have Colleen read the Monday dilemma, but I know what it is, so I'm I'm just going to tell you what it is, right? Um, so last week when I was coming back from vacation, and everything is all around vacation, I was in the airport. I was in the airport waiting for my flight, and I stopped to get something to eat. I stopped to get something to eat in a Mexican restaurant, right, inside the airport. As I'm sitting there waiting for my food to come, I noticed a father and a son sitting at the table. They have finished their meal. They have finished their meal, and the server comes to them with a dessert. And here's what it is. It is a small cast iron skillet, and she puts a slice of apple pie on this hot cast iron skillet. Then she puts a big scoop of ice cream on top of this apple pie. Then she pours this caramel sauce stuff on top of the apple pie and the ice cream, and it just goes like this big. I mean, a wonderful, beautiful presentation. I saw it on the menu. I saw it on the menu. It was $15. It was over $15. I said, "Oh, look at that!" Right? And so the server puts this dessert in front of the father and the son and gives them two spoons, one on each side. I see the son shake his head. I see the father look at the dessert and pick up his spoon and start eating. The son puts his headphones on and starts dealing with his phone, his iPhone, his whatever he's got. He's not even paying attention to that dessert. And the father is powering through this ice cream in this pie. I mean, this pie and this ice cream. And I didn't hear the conversation, but here's what I know happened. At some point during the course of that meal, while they weren't full, because as sure as I'm sitting here, I know when the server brought that pie that the father and the son both were full. And the son honored his space. The son said, no. But at some point during the course of the meal, maybe when they ordered, they just said, okay, well, let's split a dessert. Or maybe the server came back and said, would you like a dessert? And they said, yeah, we'll split one. But that was before they were full. This is what I'm making up. This is what I know happened. And then when the meal was over, the server came up with the thing, right? Came up with the dessert. The son is full. He says no, but the father eats it. The father eats it because he's already paid for it. He eats his portion and the son's portion because he's already paid for it. And I watched him as that dessert got smaller and smaller. He ate slower and slower, but he was determined to finish it because he paid for it. And what I also know is that he didn't even enjoy it. He didn't even enjoy it. And that makes me sad. But that's a prime example of what we do day in and day out when I talk about eating for the wrong reasons. And the son was slim. I mean, he's young enough. I mean, he was he was 17, 18, 19, 20, somewhere around in there. And the father was a little older, kind of pudgy, like so, right? And so we know, here's what I know, is that, and I've seen it, parents out with their kids, they buy the food, they get a Happy Meal, the kids don't eat all the French fries, the parent reaches right over and finishes the French fries or finishes the hamburger because they paid for it. But what we have to really be conscious of is the high cost of free food and the high cost of the food that we pay for. Because if you don't need it, if you don't want it, if it's not good for you, even if you paid for it, even if you spent good money for it, right? It's still not serving you, and it's not doing the thing that you needed to do. So but I looked at that scenario and I just thought, how many times does that happen over the course of a day, over the course of a month, over the course of a week, over the course of the year? And we look at it and then that's what we see. Yes, honor your body's fullness. Honor and you say that you honor your body's fullness, but here's what happens is we spend so much time eating for the wrong reasons, we don't even recognize that we're full. We spend so much time eating for reasons other than hunger, we don't even recognize real hunger. So we have to step back. we have to step back and ask the question that I always say: am I hungry or am I something else? I mean, that father wasn't thinking about the fact that he was hungry. He was thinking about, I work too hard for this money. I work too hard.
Hey, Michelle.
Yes.
Michelle, you had two people. It was both Lisa here and Dallas Nancy. They both had commented that the father ate it in your question. So they were right.
Yeah, he did. He ate it. He ate it. And
You,
so,
you know
go
how
ahead.
I know that he ate it?
Huh.
My father would have done the same thing. My father would have done the same thing. But I spoke to Michelle about this. What my father used to do is any food, it was 6 of us. And any food that we didn't eat, my father would say, just give it to me. Just give it to me. I'll eat it. But the thing about that is, my father didn't eat when we ate. He sat at the table, but he knew that he was going to eat the food that we had left over. So he didn't get a plate. He would wait until the end to see what he had to eat first before he fixed his plate. So he kind of controlled it. And my
Right.
mother would say to us, don't get that food unless you're going to eat it. And my
Right.
father would say whether or not, I'm not going to eat that. So you better scale it back, because if you can't eat it, my father's not going to eat it and you're going to have to eat it.
Right.
So, but he waited till everybody was finished, and then my father would eat. And we would sit and talk to him, but it was everything. Just give me those mashed potatoes. Yeah, give me that chicken. Yeah, give me that cornbread.
Right, right.
Crazy.
Well, he clearly had a plan, and he
Yeah.
figured out a way. He figured out a way not to waste food and still honor as the other Facebook user said, to honor his body. So,
Well, one of the things that I discovered, because to me this is a great example, tremendous. I mean, we could probably talk on this for hours. But one of the things that I discovered, and I make the comment in the book, but I say it to people all the time: you have 2 choices. You can waste it, or you can waste it.
yes, yes, yes.
So either way, you're burning dollars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's back the bus up just a minute. What is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to live the healthiest life that we possibly can. What is the best way to do that? If we're presented with an opportunity to consume food that we really don't want, regardless of who paid for it and regardless of how many jobs they had to work in order to bring this thing to you, we express gratitude, we express honor them, but then we make a choice. Are we going to waste it, or are we going to waste it?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, we can only do something about us. We can't do anything about somebody else. And if they made the choice to acquire this for us and give it to us, well, then we have a choice as to what we do with it. But at the same time, if we are at the restaurant and we order the dessert, and then the dessert comes and we see how large it is, we have a choice again.
Mm-hmm.
We can eat 1 or 2 bites and let them take the rest of the way. We can eat 1 or 2 bites. We can put it in the to-go box and take it with us. We can eat 1 or 2 bites and say, you know what, I really enjoyed that. It was exactly what I wanted. Now I'm ready to go do the next thing. Mm-hmm. And we just have to make certain that we are being clear about our intentions. Mm-hmm. But always look at it in these situations. You can either waste it or waste it.
Or waste it. I love
a restaurant, you can say, I've changed my mind. You can send it back in a restaurant.
Yes, you can.
No,
you can.
You can do
you
that.
Can. That is at a restaurant. You can say, you know what? I didn't realize I was going to be so full. I enjoyed this meal so much. I really don't want it now. They can just take it back.
Yeah, you save your money.
Yep.
You save money, and then you make sure that you tip the waiter or waitress a little bit extra money because they were inconvenienced.
Right. Right. Yeah. There are ways, right? There are ways for us to honor our bodies, right? But we just have to start choosing them, right? We have to start choosing them and understanding that the food really is a means to an end. we're in a place where we think that the food is the end. The food is the end, but the real situation is that we eat the result of what we eat and the result of what we consume. I mean, our body is a result of what we eat and what we consume. And the choice is, let me decide how I want to feel, how I want to look, how I want to show up, and then eat to that end.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Decide how you want to look, how you want to be healthy, you want to look fly, you want to show up, you want to live long, right? Move through the world at, your knees not hurting and everything. Then eat to support that. That's the question. Will this thing right here help me get the body that I want?
Well, and I had this ginormous aha moment about 8-9 months ago that, okay, let's say you downsize your car. You were driving a giant Suburban, okay? And you downsize to a Kia Sorento. That's what I drive. All right, that giant Suburban took probably 50 gallons of gas, right? Okay, now the Kia takes maybe 30 gallons of gas. But no, it takes 16 gallons of gas. Okay, so am I going, just because I was driving a Suburban or I want to drive a Suburban, am I going to put Suburban gas into my Kia? No, because I have gas going all over the ground, right?
You'll be wasting it.
I would be wasting it. So when we overconsume the fuel that our body requires, it's just like taking the gas and putting it into my Kia as if I'm driving a Suburban. That gas is going all over the ground. The biggest difference is the food that I'm eating that is above and beyond the fuel that my body requires goes into fat cells. Mm-hmm. And I get to lug it around. Mm-hmm. It's not washing down the gutter.
Right. It's still toxic, right? It's
still toxic.
It's still toxic. And you know what, Leslie? It reminds me that even with that example that you gave about the Suburban and the Sorento, is that gas, when it overflows, and we could just imagine that gas overflowing and not overflowing onto the ground, but overflowing inside of the car and not in the fuel tank. What a disaster that would be, and how toxic and how unmanageable and how unlivable and how unpleasant that would be. It's the same thing with our bodies.
I'm going to steal that example from you because I like the way you put that.
Please feel free. Feel free. So we've gone a little longer tonight. I do want to honor everybody's time for showing up for these 30 minutes on a brand new take. I want to thank you, Leslie, for coming in and jumping in the conversation. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to say this in front of God and everybody that's watching and everybody else. Come anytime. Come. I mean, you have a corner. You have a corner.
Thank you. I will be back. I'm putting you on my calendar. I will be back.
on brand new take. We love having you here. Thank you, Lisa, for jumping on. I always appreciate your input. We're going to look for you next Sunday. Thank you, whoever, Sheba, Facebook user. Thank you for jumping in. Tell some people, join us on Instagram, and join me on the Instagram. I Am Brand New. Follow me on Facebook, on the YouTube channel. I Am Brand New now. Download a free copy of the book, Leaving Large, at leavinglarge.com. Thank you, the wonderful host, Dr. Colleen Meyer. Appreciate you so much. And we're going to keep it going. We'll be back. We'll be right back next Sunday at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be brand new, and we'll keep raising the bar.